In the books, Ginny Weasley is plain and simple an awesome character. She casts some killer spells, looks like a pro on the Quidditch pitch, and had guys chasing after her for her good looks and great personality. This unfortunately is not the case with the Ginny that we got in the films. The films did not do her justice, especially in the later ones. They made her nothing more than Harry's love interest, and made her extremely awkward, especially in her scenes with Harry.
Shoelace.
In this video, I'm going to do what the movies could not. I'm going to give her character justice, as I explain the life of Ginny Weasley. Ginny was one of 7 children born to Arthur and Molly Weasley. She was the youngest and the only girl. She grew up in the Burrow, the home of the Weasleys. Her room was on the 3rd floor. It was small, but she made it very bright. She had a poster of the Weird Sisters, a wizarding band, and a poster of Gwenlock Jones, her favorite professional Quidditch player. Her older brothers did not let her play Quidditch with them, but around the age of 6, she started to break into the shed and stole their brooms without them knowing. This is how she first started to gain her Quidditch skills. Ginny watched all of her brothers go off to Hogwarts, making her extremely excited to go herself. A year before she was old enough to go, she saw her brothers off, where she met Harry Potter for the first time. When she met him, however, she didn't know it was him, and when she found out, she asked her mother if she could go on the train and see him. Mrs. Weasley scolded her by saying, "The poor boy isn't something you can goggle at in a zoo." Ginny went with her mother to pick up her brothers at the end of that term. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione came out, she pointed at them and shouted, "There he is, Mom! There he is, look! Harry Potter!" She was again scolded by her mother, telling her to be quiet, and said that it was rude to point. That summer, Ginny constantly talked about Harry, and it was clear that she had a crush on him.
Ginny, she's been talking about your summer. Bit annoying, really.
When Harry came to visit the Burrow at the end of the summer, she was uncharacteristically shy. You don't know how weird it is for her to be this shy. She never shuts up normally. She seemed very prone to knocking things over whenever Harry was around. When Harry came down one morning, she accidentally knocked her porridge to the floor. When Ginny was preparing to go to her first year of Hogwarts, her parents bought many of her things secondhand in Diagon Alley. While there, Malfoy started to make fun of Harry.
Famous Harry Potter.
Ginny stood up to Malfoy in defense of him.
Leave him alone.
This was the first time that she had spoken in front of Harry all summer.
Oh look, Potter, you got yourself a girlfriend.
Lucius Malfoy then came in and picked up Ginny's secondhand books. He made fun of her father for not being able to afford new books and placed the books back. When he placed them, he added another book to the collection, Tom Riddle's Diary, aka one of Voldemort's Horcruxes that had part of his soul inside of it. Ginny brought that diary to Hogwarts. The first night she was there, she was sorted into Gryffindor just like the rest of her family. While at school, Ginny started writing in the diary, and the part of Voldemort's soul inside of it wrote back to her. She started confiding in the diary and telling it that she thought Harry never noticed her brothers always teased her, and how she had secondhand supplies and robes. Little did she know, the fragment of Voldemort's soul inside the diary was possessing her. The more she confided in him, the stronger he got. He used her body to open the Chamber of Secrets, the chamber that Salazar Slytherin, one of the founders of Hogwarts, made. It housed a beast called a basilisk that could kill just by looking at someone in the eyes. Voldemort had opened the chamber during his time at Hogwarts 50 years earlier, but he had to stop when he framed Hagrid for it. The first time he used Ginny's body to open the chamber and let the beast out was on Halloween. He wrote on the wall in blood,
"The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." It's written in blood.
The beast petrified Mrs. Norris, Filch the caretaker's cat. Afterward, when everyone was talking about it, Ginny had no memory of that night. She seemed very disturbed and upset about the incident. She was crying her eyes out and having nightmares. Her brothers just assumed that this was because she was a cat lover and was sad about Mrs. Norris. Voldemort possessed her 2 more times, and both times opened the chamber. This led to Colin Creevey and Justin Finch-Fletchley being petrified, just like Mrs. Norris. Once again, she couldn't recall where she was for either of those attacks. One morning, she woke up with rooster feathers all over her, and once again, she could not remember what had happened that night. Voldemort made her slaughter all the roosters because they are a known threat to the basilisk, the monster he was unleashing on the school. She confided in the diary even more, telling her that she thought she was going mad. Eventually, Ginny started to become suspicious of the diary and tried to get rid of it by throwing it down a toilet. For Valentine's Day, Ginny sent a dwarf to sing to Harry, something that greatly embarrassed him. Malfoy called her out in front of everyone. "I don't think Potter liked your Valentine much." During all of this, Harry's bag ripped, and he dropped all of his things, including the diary. To Ginny's horror, she saw Harry picking it up and panicked. She raided his room and took the diary back.
Tom Riddle's diary is gone.
She finally decided to confide in her older brother Ron that she was losing time and that she might be responsible for the attacks. But right before she was about to tell him, she was interrupted by Percy and she ran off. Voldemort possessed Ginny one last time and made her write on the wall again. Her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever. He then had her go down to the chamber and he planned to use her body to make himself reborn to full strength.
As poor Ginny grows weaker, I grow stronger.
Harry, Ron, and a reluctant Lockhart went down to the chamber. When Harry got separated, he killed the basilisk and stabbed the diary with one of its fangs. This destroyed the Horcrux and freed Ginny. Fawkes the Phoenix then carried Harry, Ron, Ginny, and Lockhart out of the chamber. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley were very happy to see her daughter, but they were furious when they found out that she was talking to the diary. Ginny, haven't I taught you anything? What have I always told you? Never trust anything that can think for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain. Ginny went up to the hospital wing with her parents. She learned a great deal from this incident and never trusted an object without a brain again. Ginny was perfectly happy when they got on the train ride home. That summer, Ginny visited her brother Bill in Egypt with the rest of her family after her father won a decent amount of money. She went in many tombs, but Mrs. Weasley didn't let her go in the last one because of all the mutant skeletons. When Ginny saw Harry again, she was even more embarrassed than usual after Harry had saved her life a few months before that. But they did share a laugh when Percy was showing off in front of his girlfriend. On the train ride to her second year of Hogwarts, the Mentors entered the train, and Ginny was affected a lot after having such a strong connection to Tom Riddle with the diary, which the Dementors immediately sensed. She sobbed in the corner, and Hermione came over to put a comforting arm around her. After Harry's incident on the Quidditch pitch, a blushing Ginny made Harry a get well soon card. The card sang very shrilly. After she left, Harry kept it under his bowl of fruit to keep it quiet. The following summer, Ginny hung out with Hermione a lot. She was staying at the Burrow so that she could go to the Quidditch World Cup with them. They shared a room in the Burrow and shared a tent at the World Cup. As the girls' friendship grew, Hermione urged her to relax around Harry and show him what she was really like, as she could barely talk when she was around him. She also suggested to start taking interest in other boys. She said that maybe then Harry would take an interest in her. While at the World Cup, a group of ex-Death Eaters attacked after the game, and Fred and George took Ginny to safety.
Fred, George! Ginny is your responsibility.
Ginny returned to Hogwarts for her third year when the Triwizard Tournament took place. What came along with the tournament was the Yule Ball. Ginny wasn't eligible to go, as it was only for 4th years and above, but she got around that rule when Neville Longbottom asked her. Hermione was asked by Victor Crumb, and the only person that she confided in was Ginny, as they had become close over the summer. While Ginny was laughing at Ron getting rejected by Fleur Delacour, Harry said that he had just asked Cho Chang, and Ginny's smile faded immediately. While at the ball, she had a good time despite the fact that Neville kept stepping on her feet while they danced, which made her wince. Ginny also met Michael Corner at the ball. She would start dating him a few months later at the end of term. The following summer, Ginny's family was heavily involved in the Order of the Phoenix, and they moved to number 12 Grimmauld Place for the summer. This was the headquarters for the Order. When Harry arrived at the headquarters, Ginny was finally able to act like a normal person in front of him. This was because she was dating Michael, and no longer felt weird in front of Harry. This showed Harry a whole new side of her, which he quite liked. On the train ride to her 4th year of Hogwarts, Ginny introduced Harry and Neville to Luna Lovegood, an odd girl in her year who Ginny was always nice to. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione started Dumbledore's Army, a group that Harry taught Defense Against the Dark Arts to in secret, Ginny was one of the first to join. She got several boys to come as well, including Michael Corner, who she was still dating, and all of his friends as well. Ginny came up with the name Dumbledore's Army for the club. She shut down Cho Chang's idea, who Harry was dating at the time. Ginny did very well in the club and showed how powerful a witch she really was.
Fantastic, Ginny!
Ginny had gotten very good at her Bat Bogey Hex. Size is no guarantee of power. Look at Ginny. What do you mean? You've never been on the receiving end of one of her Bat Bogey hexes, have you? When Harry was banned from playing Quidditch, Ginny took his place as Seeker, and she was very good. Ginny's father, Arthur Weasley, was attacked a little bit before Christmas by Voldemort's snake, Nagini. Harry saw the attack happen through the eyes of the snake, which luckily saved Arthur's life. They were able to get him to St. Mungo's, the wizarding hospital, very soon after the attack. Ginny and the others were sent to number 4 Grimmauld Place by Dumbledore before Dolores Umbridge could get to them. When Mrs. Weasley got back from visiting Arthur, Ginny got up and hugged her mother. They all went to visit him the next day, and to their delight, it looked like he would make a full recovery.
Daddy's back.
Based on Harry seeing Mr. Weasley attacked, everyone realized that Harry and Voldemort's minds were connected. He sheltered himself from everyone. Ginny called him out on this. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. Well, that was a bit stupid of you, seeing as you don't know anyone but me who's been possessed by you-know-who, and I can tell you how it feels. Harry remained quiet as the impact of these words hit him. I forgot. Lucky you. Ginny then assured Harry that he wasn't being possessed based on the information that he had given her. They realized that the sensations were very different. Ginny spent Christmas with her family, Harry and Hermione at number 12 Grimmauld Place. When she returned to Hogwarts, she played in her first Quidditch match. They lost, but she caught the snitch. Harry congratulated her on this, and they started talking about Ginny becoming a chaser when Harry returned to Seeker. One night, Ginny visited Harry in the library. They began to have a real conversation, and for the first time, Harry really enjoyed talking to her alone. In Ginny's second Quidditch match, they played Ravenclaw. Ginny got the snitch before Cho, who Harry had recently broken up with. Cho started to cry after this. Ron said more out of temper than anything. Michael Corner, who was also in Ravenclaw, was expressing how upset he was about the result of the match. This annoyed Ginny, so she dumped him. Many boys were interested in Ginny, and many went after her, but she eventually started dating Dean Thomas, a boy in Harry and Ron's year. At the end of term, Ginny along with Luna were captured by the Inquisitorial Squad. They were trying to help Harry after he saw a vision of Sirius being tortured. They eventually escaped, and Ginny joined Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, and Luna as they went to the Department of Mysteries to save Sirius. When they got there, they found out it was a trap to get the prophecy, and they were confronted by a handful of Death Eaters, including Lucius and Bellatrix. Bellatrix threatened to use the Cruciatus Curse, or the Torture Curse, on Ginny to force Harry to hand over the prophecy. They knocked over shelves to distract the Death Eaters, and Ginny, Luna, and Ron got separated from the others. One Death Eater grabbed Ginny by the ankle, and Luna, trying to free Ginny, ended up breaking Ginny's ankle. Luna got Ginny along with Ron out of there, but Ginny was too hurt to continue to help in the battle. After the fight was over, Madame Pomfrey fixed her broken ankle. Ginny consoled Harry after the death of his godfather Sirius Black, which happened during the fight. The following summer, Ginny practiced Quidditch with the intention of trying out to be Chaser. Her brother Bill's fiancée, Fleur Delacour, lived with them that summer, and Ginny greatly disliked her. Toward the end of the summer, everyone went to Diagon Alley to get school supplies, and they all went to see Fred and George's new joke shop, which greatly impressed Ginny. On the train to Hogwarts, she was interrupted from talking to her boyfriend Dean by Zachariah Smith, who was asking about what had happened in the Department of Mysteries. She got mad and shot her famous Bat Bogey hex at him. This caught the attention of an impressed Horace Slughorn, the new potions master, and he invited her to his very exclusive slug club. Ginny tried out for Quidditch and made it as a chaser. She was by far the best at that position on the team. After one practice, Harry and Ron caught Ginny and Dean kissing. This made Harry very jealous, something he had never felt for Ginny before.
What do you suppose Dean sees in her, Ginny?
And what does she see in him?
Ron yelled at her. Ginny then told Dean to go back to the common room. After he left, she responded to Ron, saying that he was mad because he had never kissed anyone himself, and that he had about as much experience with it as a 12-year-old. She then stormed off in fury. Later, Harry pictured himself kissing Ginny instead of Dean, which was a thought he quite liked. For the first Quidditch match of the season, Ginny scored many points for her team, leading Gryffindor to a blowout win. After Harry caught the snitch and ended the game, Ginny flew right at Zachariah Smith, who had been a terrible announcer, taking shots at Gryffindor every opportunity that he had. She flew right at him and collided with him. She then said to Professor McGonagall, "Forgot to break, Professor. Sorry." Ginny and Ron were still mad at each other. She got even more mad when Ron started kissing Lavender Brown in public. She called him a filthy hypocrite. One day, Ginny stopped two boys in her Transfiguration class from calling Luna Loony Lovegood, which Luna greatly appreciated. Ginny attended Slughorn's Christmas party with Dean as her date. She slowly started to lose interest in Dean, and they fought a lot.
They've been fighting again, her and Dean.
After Christmas break, she seemed quite unenthusiastic about seeing Dean after they had been apart for a very long time. They continued to fight, and one day, Ginny got mad at him for helping her through the portrait hole. What had actually happened was Harry, who was under the invisibility cloak and had taken liquid luck, had bumped her, and she thought it was Dean. The liquid luck did its job for Harry, and Dean and Ginny finally broke up. When Ron was poisoned, she and Ron's feud finally ended, and she was at his bedside for quite some time. While there, she and Harry discussed how he could have been poisoned. When Harry hit Malfoy with the Sectum Semper spell, was actually supporting Harry for using it, while everyone else was disappointed in him. After they won the Quidditch Cup and Harry returned to the common room, Ginny ran to Harry and put her arms around him. Without thinking, Harry leaned in and kissed Ginny in front of the whole common room. When they finally pulled apart, Dean had broken his glass, and Ron gave Harry the okay for him to date his sister. Harry gestured to Ginny, and the two walked out of the portrait hole and went for a long walk on the grounds. The two were extremely happy to be together. People gossiped about the two dating. Ginny was leaning on Harry's legs on the common room floor when they started to talk about how the gossip didn't bother them. Unfortunately, they had very little time together, as Ginny had to study for her OWL exams. At the end of the term, the Battle of the Astronomy Tower took place. Harry had ordered Ginny along with Ron and Hermione to drink the rest of his liquid luck to make sure that they were safe. Ginny, Ron, and Neville stood guard outside the room of requirement to look out for Malfoy. Malfoy, along with the Death Eaters he had gotten into the school, however, got by them by using instant darkness powder. Ginny later dueled the Carrow brother, one of the Death Eaters Malfoy had gotten in. During this battle, Dumbledore was killed. Harry was over his body, crying. No one could convince him to leave his side. Ginny then came over and held him. Ginny led him away from the body, and they went to the hospital wing. While there, Ginny was shocked and upset to hear about her brother Bill being attacked by a werewolf named Greyback. After everything that happened, Ginny still took her OWL exams. After that, she spent most of her time with Harry. They spent a lot of time on the school grounds where they could be alone. This time together was by far the happiest that they had ever been. Everything changed, however. At Dumbledore's funeral, Harry spoke to Ginny alone. Ginny listened. "I can't be involved with you anymore. We've got to stop seeing each other. We can't be together. It's for some stupid noble reason, isn't it? It's been like something out of someone else's life these past few weeks with you. But I can't. We can't. I've got things to do alone now." Ginny didn't cry, but simply looked at Harry. Harry then explains to her that he doesn't want Voldemort to use her against him. "What if I don't care? I care. I never really gave up on you. Not really. I always hoped. Hermione told me to get on with my life, maybe go out with some other people, relax a bit around you, and she thought you might take a bit more notice if I was a bit more myself. I just wished I'd asked you sooner. We could have had ages, months, years maybe, but you've been too busy saving the wizarding world. I knew this would happen in the end. I knew you wouldn't be happy unless you were hunting Voldemort. Maybe that's why I like you so much." Harry couldn't bear these words. He got up and turned his back on Ginny. Ginny was heartbroken, but stayed strong as she watched the man she had loved most of her life walk away just a few weeks after she had finally gotten him. She watched as the thing that made her more happy than anything in the world turned his back on her. She knew it was for a good reason, but that didn't make it hurt any less. The following summer, the Order had to extract Harry from the Dursleys before he turned 17, making him of age in the wizarding world. Ginny stayed home with her mother, waiting for everyone to return. When Harry arrived, he and Ginny held hands as they waited for the others. Unfortunately, not everyone made it back.
Mad Eye's dead.
Later, Ginny told Harry that Mrs. Weasley was stopping the trio from meeting, hoping this would delay them from their mission. And then what does she think's gonna happen? Someone else might kill off Voldemort while she's holding us here? So it's true. That's what you're trying to do. Ginny finally knew why Harry said he couldn't be with her. They stared at each other, and there was something more than shock in Ginny's expression. The two realized that this was the first time they had been alone together since those stolen hours alone in the Hogwarts grounds. A few days later, Ginny asked Harry to come into her room. She wished Harry a happy 17th, and the two looked into each other's eyes. Ginny then leaned in and kissed him as she had never kissed him before. The two forgot everything, all their worries, all their problems. It was just the two of them. The door then crashed open, and they were interrupted by Ron, and the moment ended. Ginny walked out as she wished Harry a happy birthday one last time. She turned her back on him, just as he had turned his back on her at Dumbledore's funeral. At Bill's wedding, Ginny was a bridesmaid along with Fleur's sister Gabrielle. Ginny's aunt said that her dress was too short, which made her turn around and wink at Harry. She danced with Luna, Fred George, and Lee Jordan, which Harry watched from afar, not wanting to get too close to Ginny before he left. During the celebration, Death Eaters crashed the wedding, and Ginny dueled as she defended herself against the Death Eater. She was unable to say goodbye to Harry before he, Ron, and Hermione disapparated. The Weasley family was questioned and held captive, but none were harmed. Ginny went to her 6th year of Hogwarts, and she, Luna, and Neville started the DA up again. They would sneak out and write graffiti on the wall saying, "Dumbledore's army, still recruiting." The three tried to steal the sword of Gryffindor from Snape's office. They were caught and sent to detention, which turned out to be not so bad, as they were with Hagrid. Snape also banned Ginny from going to Hogsmeade. While on the run, Harry would often look at the Marauders map and watch Ginny. When Ginny went home for Easter holiday, she was forced to go into hiding with the rest of her family. This was because Ron was seen with Harry, who was the #1 most wanted in the wizarding world. When Harry returned to Hogwarts, everyone started to come back to the school, and they all prepared for the imminent battle. When Ginny arrived, she gave Harry a radiant smile, and Harry had forgotten how beautiful she was. When Cho volunteered to take Harry to Ravenclaw Tower, Ginny cut her off and said that Luna should go with him instead. When the real battle began, Mrs. Weasley told Ginny that she couldn't fight because she was underage. She was was told to stay in the room of requirement. But when Harry needed the room to change form, Ginny had to leave, and Ginny began to fight. She and Tonks were shooting jinxes from a high-up window into a crowd of Death Eaters below. During a break in the battle, Ginny heard about the death of her brother Fred, and was deeply upset. Her face was swollen and blotchy as Hermione held her. She and her family stood over the body of their fallen son and brother. Fred's eyes stared without seeing, the ghost of his last laugh still etched upon his face. Ginny helped gather the dead and wounded during the break in the battle. As Harry was on his way to sacrifice himself, he saw Ginny crouching over a girl. Ginny's voice broke as she told the girl that it would be alright. The injured girl told her that she wanted to go home and that she didn't want to fight anymore. It took everything in Harry not to shout out her name. He knew that if he went to her, he would not be able to do what needed to be done. Harry went into the forest and let Voldemort hit him with a killing curse. Unbeknownst to Voldemort, Harry actually survived but kept pretending to be dead as he and the Death Eaters brought Harry's supposed dead body back to the castle. Ginny cried out when she saw Harry's dead body.
No! No!
Neville stood up to Voldemort, and the battle began again. Ginny began to duel Bellatrix with the help of Hermione and Luna. Bellatrix shot a killing curse that narrowly missed Ginny. Mrs. Weasley then stepped forward.
Not my daughter, you bitch!
And she defeated the woman that had nearly taken another one of her children from her. Moments later, Harry defeated Voldemort, and the fight was finally over. Ginny was one of the first people to run and hug Harry. After the battle, Ginny sat with her mother, her head on her shoulder. Now that Harry had completed his mission, he and Ginny got back together. After she finished Hogwarts, Ginny played Quidditch professionally. Ginny and Harry eventually got married, at which point she would retire from playing Quidditch to start their family. They had 3 kids, Albus, James, and Lily. Ginny later became the senior Quidditch correspondent for the Daily Prophet. Her job took her to the 2014 Quidditch World Cup, where she wrote several stories for the Prophet. Harry and their kids joined her as well, and they all watched the match together. She stayed close with the rest of her family, and she and her siblings would get their kids together very often. Ginny started out as just being Ron's little sister, but she blossomed into a strong and beautiful woman. She gave everyone in her life so much strength, and was always there for everyone when they needed her, especially for Harry. Without Ginny, Harry would have never gotten through his fight with Voldemort. She was the light that drove him, the person who reminded him of what he was fighting for. Every great man has a greater woman behind them, and for Harry, that was Ginny.